This is your English news edition, coming to you live from the capital Algiers with me, Mariam Zian. Straight to the headlines. At the conclusion of the 12th high-level seminar on peace and security in Africa, the Oran process, Algeria underscored the importance of this edition and its role in highlighting the continent's challenges. It reaffirmed that the principle of African solutions to African problems has established itself as a strategic choice, while African diplomats widely praised Algeria's efforts to strengthen continental unity. Also coming up in Gaza, Israeli occupation fire left martyrs and wounded in several areas of the Strip. As Palestinian organizations reported that the number of bodies held by the occupation has risen to nearly 800. And in the West Bank, the ongoing Israeli assault resulted in 2 martyrs in Al-Khalil. President Vladimir Putin met Steve Witkoff at the Kremlin to discuss ending the conflict, affirming Russia's readiness to fight if Europe chooses war, while President Volodymyr Zelensky said the Geneva framework had been refined following recent talks in the US. Hello and welcome back to the details of your nightly news. First, Algeria's Minister of State, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ahmed Attaf, affirmed that the 12th high-level seminar on peace and security in Africa, namely the Oran process, carried unique importance and a special impact. In his closing remarks at the end of the 2-day seminar hosted by the Algerian capital, Attaf noted that the significance of this edition lays in its focus of the most pressing political and security challenges currently facing the African continent. He stressed that these challenges are alarming and require serious warnings, explaining that they revolve mainly around 3 major threats dominating the continent's security landscape: unconstitutional changes of governments, the scourge of terrorism, and the phenomenon of foreign interference.
Our session has had a unique importance and a special impact, as it shed light on the most prominent security and political challenges facing our African continent in the current phase, challenges that require the sounding of alarm bells, and challenges that awaken in us the sense of continental duty and the spirit of collective responsibility. These challenges are currently manifested in a set of major risks that feed into one another, forming a triad whose repercussions and consequences dominate the security landscape of our continent. It is the triad consisting of unconstitutional changes of governments, the scourge of terrorism, and the phenomenon of foreign interference.
And the Minister of State and Minister of Foreign Affairs underscored the key outcomes of the 12th edition of the Oran process, stressing the need to reposition the African Union as a central actor in crisis prevention and conflict resolution.
In the face of such a situation of crisis, we commend the outcomes of the discussions during this session relating to the necessity of repositioning and re-establishing the African Union as a pivotal actor in the field of crisis prevention and conflict resolution. The principle of African solutions to African problems imposes itself today, not only as a legitimate aspiration, but as a strategic choice capable of sparing our continent the dangers of the current international polarizations, which serves for nothing except reproducing crises in forms that are more impactful, more intense, and far more dangerous.
Minister Attaf further underscored the importance of strengthening the complementary relationship between the AU Peace and Security Council and the African members of the UN Security Council, noting that this issue took the lion's share of discussions during the Oran process. Let's have a listen.
From this perspective comes the importance of strengthening the complementary relationship between the African Peace and Security Council on the one hand and the group of African members of the UN Security Council on the other. This topic captured a significant portion of the discussions and debates during this session of the Oran process, while our African Council is required to elevate its performance in addressing issues of peace and security in Africa. The 3 African members of the UN Security Council are also required to keep pace with this performance and ensure that its results and effects extend to the UN level. Our experience and the experiences of our African brothers in the Security Council have all confirmed the importance of reinforcing the complementary and existential link between our continental organization and its representatives at the UN Security Council. These experiences have proven and continue to prove that what truly makes the difference lies in one choice, namely the choice of unity.
ألا وهو خيار الوحدة.
The Algerian diplomacy chief stressed that preserving African unity, both in position, voice, and position in its voice, was the ultimate objective of Algeria's mandate in the UN Security Council. He also praised the efforts of African member states on the Security Council and the support provided by Guyana to the African voice within the UN body as part of the A3+ group.
أصحاب السعادة السفراء إن الحفاظ على وحدة الصف الإفريقي.
The preservation of African unity, unity of ranks, and unity of purpose has in itself constituted the pinnacle of our goals and the ultimate aim of our efforts during Algeria's membership in the Security Council. In this regard, I would like to salute our brothers from the Republic of Somalia, the Republic of Sierra Leone, and the Republic of Mozambique, who shared with us the carrying of this noble endeavor. I would like to hail in the same context the Republic of Guyana, which strengthened the African voice in the Security Council and broadened its resonance by adding the voice of the Caribbean region as the sixth African region. And because this principle of African unity encapsulates on its own the essence of Algeria's experience in the UN Security Council, I conclude these remarks with recalling the words of our late African leader, Julius Nyerere, who said, "Unity may not make us rich, but it makes it difficult to ignore African states and peoples."
تجاهل الدول والشعوب الإفريقية.
The chairperson of the AU Peace and Security Council, Ivorian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Kasouleon Adom, stressed the need to strengthen coordination and consultation between the African Union and the African A3+ group at the Security Council in order to defend Africa with a united, strong voice. In his remarks at the closing session of the 12th edition of the Oran process, Adom praised Algeria's pivotal diplomatic and political role in supporting initiatives aimed at ending conflicts across the continent. He also called for limiting foreign interventions in conflict hotspots as they undermine African sovereignty.
I must emphasize that Algeria's continuous support has been a decisive factor in making this high-level conference a strategic space for reflection and consultation on Africa's peace and security issues. Africa today faces a complex and interconnected set of challenges, from terrorism, armed rebellions, and foreign interference to the rise of unconstitutional changes of government, along with the impacts of climate change and worsening humanitarian conditions. The scale of these challenges demands a collective, thoughtful, and forward-looking response. It is now essential to strengthen the role of the A3+ group within the UN Security Council, as it is a key diplomatic tool that places Africa at the center of global diplomacy, enabling it to make its voice heard and defend its positions. Strong coordination within the A3+ has become crucial to influencing the international agenda, correcting imbalances, and enhancing Africa's role in major global negotiations.
And diplomats from various African countries praised Algeria's pivotal role in unifying African ranks and strengthening the continent's voice on the international stage. Let's take a listen.
This summit is really helpful for our coordination as a continent, and I think this process initiated by Algeria has had a very good effect on Africa's collaboration at the United Nations. It has helped us speak with one voice, it has helped us coordinate our positions as a continent, and it has helped us coordinate more in terms of what we do as a continent. And I think Algeria has done a great job in supporting this process. The AU has also done a great job in supporting Algeria to coordinate this process, and I look forward to a continuation.
Very productive actually for a country like mine, the Democratic Republic of Congo, because we are coming to the Security Council starting 2026. So we have learned a lot about the experience of Algeria, Sierra Leone, Guyana, and Somalia as well. And we are coming on board to fulfill what has been done for peace and security by our predecessor. So we'll do the same job.
And Algeria's Minister of State and Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ahmed Attaf, met with Botswana's Minister of International Affairs, Vincente Seretse, with whom he reviewed the state and prospects of bilateral relations and cooperation. A statement from the Algerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Tuesday explained that the two ministers, on the sidelines of the 12th high-level seminar on peace and security in Africa, agreed on the need to work toward establishing legal frameworks and institutional mechanisms.
We are here to attend the high-level interaction on peace and security as a member of the Peace and Security Council. We have just also sat and had a meeting, a bilateral meeting with my counterpart, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Algeria, because Botswana and Algeria have enjoyed excellent relations that have subsisted for a long time. We are now looking at the opportunity to reinvigorate, reimagine these relations. We believe strongly that there are a lot that we can do together. There are a lot of priority areas that we can work on. We believe also that during this difficult geopolitical situation, we as African countries require and need more solidarity, a need to work together more, and Botswana and Algeria will be doing that. We have committed to working more closely together, and this seminar that has just ended, that is going to end today on peace and security.
And Guyana's permanent representative to the UN in New York, Ambassador Caroline Rodriguez Birket, expressed great satisfaction with the close coordination and constant consultations between Algeria and Guyana during their non-permanent membership on the UN or at the UN Security Council. According to a statement from the Algerian Foreign Ministry, Minister Attaf received the ambassador on Tuesday on the occasion of Algeria's hosting of the 12th edition of the high-level seminar on peace and security in Africa, the Oran Process. Rodriguez Birket praised Algeria's distinguished and leading role in the Security Council, particularly through its success in activating and unifying the voice of the three African countries in cooperation with her own country representing the Caribbean region within the group now known as the A3+.
I want to especially thank Algeria for starting the Oran process, which is about the A3 and the Peace and Security Council and how the A3 represents the position of Africa on the Security Council. It has been really a pleasure working with Algeria, Sierra Leone and Somalia as the A3+ on the Council, and before that Mozambique. And I think that we've been able to accomplish quite a lot. And the leadership that Algeria has shown, in particular on access to documentation for all members of the Security Council. Before that, we did not have that type of access, and Algeria has played a big role in that. But not only on that, on the representation that Algeria has also made on behalf of the Palestinian people. We were very happy to be a partner in that as well.
The Secretary of State to the Algerian Minister of Foreign Affairs in charge of African Affairs, Selma Bkhta met with Egypt's Deputy Foreign Minister, Ambassador Abu Bakr Hafni, with whom she discussed the accelerated pace of bilateral cooperation between Algeria and Egypt across various fields. A statement from the Algerian Foreign Ministry noted that the two officials exchanged views on African issues of mutual interest. The two sides emphasized the importance of continuing coordination and consultation regarding crises in Africa, highlighting the strong historical bonds between the two countries and the two worldly countries and peoples. Selma Baghta stressed that addressing the crimes of colonialism must evolve into a comprehensive political project that positions Africa as an initiator rather than a reactor. In her address at the closing session of the International Conference Center on Colonial Crimes in Africa held Monday evening at Abdelatif Rahali International Conference Center in Algiers, Mansouri emphasized that colonial crimes are not a relic of the past, but a living system of consequences still shaping development trajectories, instruments of power, and balances of force across the continent. The proceedings of this conference have demonstrated that the crimes of colonialism are not a matter of the past, but rather a living legacy that continues to shape development paths, instruments of power, and the balance of power on the continent. We have all come to understand that addressing them cannot remain confined to moral condemnation. It must also evolve into a comprehensive political, legal, and economic project that places Africa in a position of initiative, not reaction. The Secretary of State to the Algerian Minister of Foreign Affairs in charge of African affairs highlighted that Africa today possesses a new awareness that enables it to transform memory into a strategic instrument used to build international legitimacy. It has become clear that Africa today possesses a new awareness that enables it to transform memory into a strategic tool used to build legitimacy, define responsibilities, and formulate a legal discourse capable of influencing international institutions. The Algiers conference clearly declared that Africa will no longer allow its history to be rewritten outside its institutions, nor will it accept that memory remains a tool in the hands of the others. The third thing that emerged from this conference is that Africa is no longer alone. We witnessed a growing alignment with the Caribbean and Latin America regions that share with us the same legacy of erasure, displacement, and enslavement. This is not merely symbolic solidarity, but the nucleus of a global alliance that can bring about real change in the balance of discourse and decision-making within the UN, international courts, and global financial governance. Also, Secretary of State Selma Baghta also affirmed that the future of Africa's economy cannot be separated from historical justice. Let's have a listen. We have come to realize that the continent's economic future is inextricably linked to historical justice. The underdevelopment we face today is not merely the product of objective circumstances, but a direct consequence of systematic colonial policies. Therefore, our struggle is not simply about financial reparations, but about resetting the conditions of development, breaking the cycles of dependency, and repositioning Africa within the global economy on a just basis. She further praised the strategic decision of Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune to host this conference and launch its process. Mansouri emphasized that Africa today is capable of shaping a new era of sovereignty and dignity, adding that what has been achieved in Algeria under President Tebboune's vision constitutes a first step toward building an African force that is self-aware, clear in its goals, and prepared to engage in a long struggle for truth, justice, and development. To valorize the sound strategic choice of President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, who took the initiative to host this conference and launched its process, being aware that historical justice is not a symbolic file, but a tool of power, a path of sovereignty, and one of the pillars in building a new Africa. The past 2 days have proven that this vision has rearranged the priorities of the African continent and opened new horizons for collective African action. Africa, which made the glories of liberation and freedom, is today capable of creating a new era of sovereignty and dignity. What we have done today in Algeria, under the guidance of His Excellency President Abdelmajid Tebboune, is the first step toward building an aware African force, aware of itself, clear in its goals, and ready to engage in a long battle for truth, justice, and development. In the high-level seminar on peace and security in Africa, namely the Iran process organized by the AU Peace and Security Council in Algeria, highlighted key security and political challenges facing several African states, and underscored the need to expose colonial crimes across the continent. Usama Ayadi provides you with more details.
As part of its efforts to fight the legacies of colonialism and hold colonial powers accountable for their crimes, the International Conference on Colonialism Crimes in Africa renewed the need to unification as a step towards redressing the historical injustices through the criminalization of colonialism. The conference emphasized on taking action to reach historical justice for a continent that has long suffered the massive colonial damage felt in every corner of the continent.
I think that us coming here today shows that we have the intellectual integrity, we have the mental strength to know that colonialism will continue its impact unless we do something different.
Through several academic debates and unified African voices, the conference presented the human, cultural, economic, environmental, and legal dimensions of colonial crimes with a focus on intergenerational trauma, the spoliation and destruction of African cultural heritage, the exploitation of resources, and the inequitable economic models inherited from colonialism.
It's important that African countries get together and organize themselves to discuss this very important question. So it's not just a question of the crimes of colonialism in the past, but also the crimes that are continuing.
The conference, initiated by Algeria and adopted by foreign ministers and high-level representatives from African countries, was culminated with the Declaration of Algiers that showed the commitment of African nations towards redressing the crimes by colonial powers in the past, as it demanded the recognition of these dramatic human impacts.
We need to approach this much more strategically and in a coordinated and proactive fashion. I have argued that we need to constitute a panel of experts, of political scientists, historians, insurance people, to be able to begin to crunch the numbers and work out.
The Declaration of Algiers also deplored the structures of global governance that continue to reflect the power imbalances inherited from the colonial era and called for the rectification of these structural inequalities to achieving genuine restorative justice.
So I think for African countries to take a stand, African governments to take a stand, but what has come out of the conference, I think, which is very important, is the importance of the African people themselves.
The Algiers Declaration remains a vital step towards the recognition of the crimes of colonialism and constitutes a practical means for providing Africa with lasting instruments of remembrance, truth, justice, and reparation for a just, prosperous, and dignified future for generations to come.
And on Tuesday, the president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, arrived in Algeria for an official visit. Lukashenko was received upon his arrival at Houari Boumediene International Airport by the Speaker of the Algerian Council of the Nation, Mr. Azouz Nasri. Later on, President Lukashenko received the president of the Algerian People's National Assembly, Brahim Boughali, at his residence in Algiers, who paid him a courtesy visit. According to a statement from the Algerian People's National Assembly, the meeting was an opportunity to reaffirm the depth of bilateral relations and their commitment to strengthen cooperation across various fields, especially in the parliamentary and political spheres. The president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, also received the Algerian Prime Minister Sifir Rayeb on Tuesday at his residence in the Algerian capital, who paid him a courtesy visit. And now to the Palestinian file. A Palestinian man was killed and others were wounded on Tuesday by Zionist occupation fire in the Zaytoun neighborhood of Gaza City. A source at Al Ahli Hospital reported that occupation forces opened fire towards civilians outside the yellow line in the Zaytoun area, leading to the death of one Palestinian and the injury of others. And Russian President Vladimir Putin on Tuesday received U.S. President Donald Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff and businessman Jared Kushner in Russia. According to a Kremlin statement, Putin held bilateral talks with Witkoff, attended by Kushner, regarding a statement to the conflict in Ukraine. Axios, citing its sources, reported that Witkoff, Trump's special envoy, and Kushner are expected to meet Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Wednesday in a European country. Russian President Vladimir Putin affirmed that his country does not seek war with European powers, but stressed that Moscow is prepared to fight should Europe choose confrontation. Speaking on the sidelines of an investment forum in Moscow, Putin said European powers are calling for a potential peaceful settlement in Ukraine, but argued that Moscow finds the proposed settlement completely unacceptable. In a related context, Putin announced that Russia will take measures against tankers belonging to countries that assist Ukraine. He described the recent attacks targeting tankers near the Turkish coasts as acts of piracy. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, said on Tuesday that U.S. and Ukrainian negotiators have refined a framework for a peace agreement drafted in Geneva, following talks held in Florida in recent days. In a post on X, Zelensky said Ukraine is dealing with the diplomatic track with the utmost seriousness and seeks to involve more foreign partners in the process, adding that Russia launched disinformation campaigns ahead of a meeting between U.S. and Russian officials. And Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune decided to allocate an additional quota of Hajj permits for the 2026 pilgrimage season to citizens registered in the draw. A statement from Algeria's Ministry of Interior on Tuesday said the extra allocation amounts to 2,000 Hajj permits reserved for individuals aged 70 and above who have participated in the draw 10 times or more. The statement added that the special draw for this category will be held on Saturday, December 6, 2025, at provincial headquarters or another suitable location chosen by local authorities in the presence of applicants or their representatives. The decision comes as part of President Tebboune's effort to give this group of citizens a greater opportunity to perform Hajj. And that's a wrap for tonight's program. Thanks for watching and have a great night.